Hello, you guys. Welcome to another math lesson. We are going to be talking about fractions today, and we're specifically going to be talking about two different kinds of fractions. We are going to be talking about halves and fourths. Fourths are also known sometimes as quarters. So if you ever hear somebody say 1/4, or if you hear somebody like when telling time, they say a quarter past, they're meaning 1/4. It's the same thing, they're interchangeable. Okay. So you're probably looking at this going, what are halves and what are fourths or quarters? And halves, the singular version, because there is a different spelling here. So if I have 1/2, we'll start with the halves, because halves are the easiest. We can do halves, right? We've actually already done halves. You guys have learned halves from telling time when we were doing half hours. Oh, there it is. Okay. So with halves, the way that we write fractions. So halves deal with two parts, okay? So the way we write fractions is this. The top number, and this is going to be a big word that you can use to impress your friends and everyone else, because we don't teach this vocab in first grade, but I'm feeling like let's challenge ourselves and let's show off a little bit, right? So the top number in a fraction is called the numerator. And the numerator is telling me how many of the pieces that I have selected or colored in or want to see. That's what the numerator tells me. So this is telling me how many I want or how many I'm showing. The bottom one, this one is called a denominator. Got some fun fancy words, right? So a denominator tells me how many pieces there are total in my fraction, in my shape, in my number, whatever I'm dealing with. Okay, so in 1/2, how many pieces am I going to be working with? 2. Very good. And if it's 1/2, then I'm looking for one of those two pieces. Now, there's many ways that you can show 1/2. You actually saw some of them on your equal shares practice earlier. So 1/2, I'm going to change colors because you guys know me. I like color. So why would I just choose one color, right? We're up to 3 now because we did black, blue. Now we're doing purple. So if I have a shape and I want to show 1/2, first off, I need to make sure that I put it into 2 parts, right? Because that's my denominator is 2. Then I'm looking for 1/2. So I'm going to shade in. Okay, good. You guys can see. Just shade it in, which means I'm not going to color it all the way. But I've shaded in 1/2 of my circle. So 1/2 of my circle is purple, right? You can do this with circles. You can do this with squares. You can do this with triangles. The important part, though, is that it has to be equal, okay? It's not a half if it's a bigger portion than the other, or if it's a smaller portion. So if it's not an equal portion, they're not cut equally into 2 pieces, it's not going to work, okay? And there's many ways that you can cut pieces in half. For example, on this square, I didn't go up and down. I didn't even go right to left. I went diagonal. This is still showing a half because they're still equal on both pieces. So again, if I want to show 1/2, I'm going to shade in one part of that. Like I said, this can work with pretty much any shape as long as you make sure that the pieces are equal. So you could do this with a rectangle, with a hexagon, with an octagon, with a dodecahedron. It's another big fancy word, but don't worry about that right now. as long as you're showing two halves and you've got equal parts. And I know sometimes that's hard to draw. I'm not the best artist either, so I totally get it. Not a big deal. But one half, two pieces, we're looking for one of them. So I could say here that one half of my square is purple and one half of my square is white. One half of my circle is purple and one half of my circle is white. One half of my triangle is purple, one half of my triangle is white. That's halves. Now let's move on to fourths or quarters. So the way, I'm going to use my green for this. It's just going to be a little easier to see. So with a fourth, we're going to, or 1/4, we still have that fraction. And just like it suggests, we are still going to have the number 1 in the top of the fraction because we're looking for 1/4 or 1/4. We're not looking for 2/4. We're not looking for 3/4. And yes, those are possible, but we're looking for 1/4 today. So my numerator, or my top number, is still going to be 1. My bottom number is going to be 4. So because it's a fourth or a quarter, I'm looking for 4 equal pieces. And then I'm going to color in one of them in my shapes. Again, you can do this with, this one's a little bit different. You can do halves with almost any shape. Fourths, not nearly as much, because if I were to take a triangle and divide it into fourths, I most likely would not have equal sized pieces. Therefore, it doesn't work. So again, you've got to have equal shares with your fractions. I definitely can do a circle though. If any of you have ever gotten a personal sized pizza, then you have seen a circle divided into fourths. Because a personal sized pizza, they cut it into 4 pieces, right? So here is my circle, and I've divided it into fourths. I'm looking for 1/4, so I'm going to shade in 1 piece. So 1/4 of my circle is pink. You knew I had to use pink, right? It's my favorite color. I got to use it. So 1/4 of my circle is pink. The rest of it is not pink. That one I could say 3/4 is white, but I'm not going to say that. Okay, I just did. But 1/4 is pink, 1/4 is pink. I can do this with a square also. Squares and circles are definitely your easier ones. Squares, circles, and rectangles. Those are going to be your easier ones. And with a square, I can do this in one of 2 ways. I can draw a plus sign in my square, or I can draw an X in my square. And then, again, I just shade in the 1 piece, and there's 1/4 of my square, or 1/4 of my square is pink. The other thing I want you to notice while I've got both of these up here, which one is bigger? Is it the half or is it the fourth? That's right, it's the half. 1/2, right over here, 1/2 is most definitely a bigger piece than 1/4. So if somebody were to ask you, I have a candy bar, do you want half of it or do you want 1/4 of it? Do you want half or a fourth? You're going to want a half. Good luck, you guys, on your math. I will see you later.